Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Build, Paint, Play. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jake.
How you doing, Jake?
I'm hanging in there. It's another long week. I'm stressed out.
Crazy busy?
It's been crazy busy, but also like I can officially say this.
Yep.
We have signed our new paperwork.
Okay.
So we will be moving probably sometime in the next 45 days ish.
Okay, so moving the store. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you moving into that location that you're checking out?
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's one down the street.
Yep. The one that's a bit closer to the train
really
station
cool.
and
Yep.
that sort of fun stuff. Cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot of upside, but it's like juggling chainsaws. Like I'm dealing with like the guys who are doing the new demo, and the new landlord seems like a great guy, so he's managing that. But then I have to like get with the flooring guy, and then get with the guys that are doing our build out, and then I have to like submit paperwork to the city to get approval for our signs, and then I have to order signs, and then it like that's just all like the regular stuff, and then I have to call like the 36 different accounts we have,
right,
and change our billing address,
right.
and I'm just like, it's a lot. So
Sure. Yeah. No doubt. I can imagine.
I mean, again, it's good news, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot.
It's just big news. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of news. Excellent. So in the chat already we have Scott. He says my hobby OCD is to have my hobby podcast start exactly on time.
Well, we were pretty good tonight.
We weren't far off. We're only a minute or two. Chris is here. Hey, Chris. Jez is joining us. Hey, Jez.
What's going on?
Excellent. Jez is in the UK. So
Nice.
staying up late tonight to listen to us prattle on. Excellent. Thanks
Now
for
we have
joining us,
viewers
Jez.
in 3 countries.
I know. It's awesome.
Right now, 3 countries with our viewers on.
Yep. Awesome. Scott says bigger space.
So technically it's about the same size.
Yep.
The good news though is that it's a much better layout. So even though it's technically smaller,
Yep.
it's much more usable.
Right.
So like our footprint right now is, I think technically on paper we're like 3,200 square feet,
Right.
but it's like this weird sort of trapezoid, and about 400 square feet of that is stairs.
Right.
So we're really right around 3,000 square feet of usable space. But there's like a bunch of columns and there's like some weird like cutouts and stuff. The new place is basically like a big rectangle. So
Right.
even though it's technically smaller, it's a lot more usable.
Right. And it's not
Like-
not basement level. It's
Yeah, it's
Like
street front.
street
So
front-
it's
street
that's
front.
nice. It's also like it's a foot higher ceilings.
which is much better for you.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The big thing is I want to do a bunch of those, like if you've ever gone to like Barnes and Noble or anything, you know those like really tall bookshelves that go floor to ceiling,
Yeah.
and you'd have to have like usually a rolling ladder or something.
Yep.
The top I can use as overstock,
Yep.
which is still great because it's more usable space. Like, so we don't have that.
Yep.
So again, it's a little bit smaller, but I think the way that it's going to work out, I think it'll actually end up being a better footprint for us in terms of, I mean, the location streetwise, it's just way better.
Cool.
But inside, I think it'll work out for us. I think we'll be in a good spot. So,
Awesome. So
oh,
there you
nice.
go.
Jez just subscribed. Nice, another subscriber.
Yes. Hello, Jason. Welcome, Jason. Patrick's here. Excellent. And Jess Smith is here. Awesome.
Nice.
And Jez, yeah.
Welcome.
Cool. Yeah, we've been doing it for a little while, but obviously I haven't been particularly good at getting it out to the right channels. But no, definitely great to have you with us. Awesome. I think so. You've been busy with the store. Have you been able to get any hobby stuff done?
A little bit. So this weekend, my wife and I did some one-to-one painting.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
she repainted the bathroom, and I helped her like tape everything off, and then went back and did some like detail stuff, and so did a little bit of that, and then I had some. I do a role playing night with some of my friends, and we're thinking about starting a new game. So last night we spent probably 4 hours talking about BattleTech and like looking at. Here, I'll show you.
Oh,
We spent a couple hours looking at this. So this is the classic BattleTech A Time of War role playing game.
okay.
And then this is the new one. So we kind of went back and forth over the merits of like, oh, which one should we play? And like, which one's going to be better for our group? And like, what do we want to do? So it wasn't miniatures based, but it was gaming and it was fun. It was definitely a good conversation. And then I started looking around for parts for the Space Marine project we talked about.
Right.
Just was like, what do I have that I could use? And like, kind of like was digging through my collection. So I didn't like work on anything, but still was kind of like organizing. Like I was like, okay, I have this many of these guys and I have these guys. Like I still have models left over from the Indominus box that I didn't use.
Okay. Yep.
And I have some guys from the, what was the set that was like half Chaos Space Marines, half Phobos dudes?
Oh, Shadow Spear.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of the stuff from the Shadow Spear box.
Okay.
And then I've got a couple of other like random Primaris Marines that I've gotten, over the last couple of years. And I was like, oh, like this is all Primaris. I could use all this stuff. So I kind of like was kind of doling it out into parcels. Like, okay, that's all Phobos guys. This is all regular Marines. This is all like aggressors and heavy dudes. But
Yep.
yeah, that's the extent of my like hobby and gaming, which was still good. I'm not complaining, but
Cool.
how about yourself? What did you get up to?
I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Because I completely forgot last week when we had Joey on to talk about the games that I'd played. So in the previous week, the Wednesday night was my sort of regular gaming group. We played our first game of Silver Bayonet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember talking about that. You're excited about that one.
Yeah, the so the Napoleonic Napoleonic horror skirmish game from Joe McCullough. So played the first game of that, and it was pretty cool. It was interesting. It was a little bit different to Frostgrave and Stargrave, in that it used 2d10 rather than a d20 for a lot of combat. So in Joe's games, there are a lot of target numbers, and there's also kind of an opposed dice thing. But this one worked a little bit differently, a little bit less swingy. So, because when you can roll anywhere between a 1 and a 20, and there's an even chance of each number, it's very, very different to rolling 2 dice and pairing those numbers up. You're more likely to get something in the middle. More likely to get a 10 than you are a 20 or a 2.
As somebody who plays a lot of D20 role-playing games, like, I totally understand what you're talking about.
Yep, for sure. Excellent. So that was cool. Yeah, it was definitely nice. It's one where this particular scenario we played, it was you against your opponent. There are 5 objective markers on the board that are clue markers, and you have to go and investigate them. So you go stand next to them, use an action point to reveal them. And it could be something cool. It could be something bad, bad for you. Or it could be a monster or a creature or something like that.
Okay.
So for ours, it was a hobgoblin was the creature. So there's one creature.
Is it? Do you control a guy, or is it like?
It's a warband. It's a warband.
Okay.
So it's up to 8 models, and I think everybody in the group's got 8 models. Everybody's playing with 8 models. So but the turn sequence is so let's say you've revealed the monster, and the monster's going to be active. Whoever wins the roll goes first. They get to activate up to half of their warband. Then the monster activates, I think. Then your opponent activates their entire warband. And then you activate the rest of your warband. So it's a kind of a strange thing. So you could end up double turning somebody by going first twice, in that you can come around behind kind of thing, or it could be quite different. You might sort of end up in a bit of an odd situation. You don't know who's going to activate a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Sort of at any one time. So it's kind of cool and crazy in that regard. Tomorrow night we're playing again, and the games run pretty quickly. So we're going to line up 2 games. Everybody's going to play 2 games tomorrow night. So that'll be super cool. At the moment, I am painting up. So for my buddy Thomas, who's running the campaign, I'm painting up 12 of these guys.
Very nice.
Who are bandits. And I think in that scenario, like the bad guy is 2 or 3 bandits might pop up. So I think it basically, when the bad guys do pop up, it sort of behooves you to work with your opponent to get them out of the way, get the bad guys out of the way.
So is it? It's like pseudo cooperative at times.
It can be, yeah.
Okay.
And it has a setup as well where you can it basically has a solo campaign, and if you're playing a solo campaign, that's a cooperative campaign as well, really.
Okay.
Because the objective is the same, so you may as well work together to achieve the objective.
Nice.
So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, it's definitely cool. So we're going to be doing that. Just before we get too carried away with the chat, so Patrick Keith says, I'm trying out the AK Streaking Grime for the first time on some Repentia models while listening this evening. We'll have to make sure you post some photos. Those.
I haven't used that. I've seen it. Ben, I got some for Ben, but I haven't used it yet.
Yeah. Jim is here. He says hello.
What's up, Jim?
Scott says, Dave, any chance you can get some more of the authors of your books on? I would like to. Some of them live in Europe, and as Jez Hunt knows at the moment, it is already past midnight there. So it could be a little bit tough, but we'll see what we can do. Josh is here. He says, "Hoy all," and it's a particular hello to Jez. And Jez says, "Joe McCullough is a bloody genius." Looking good.
Yeah, Rangers of Shadow Deep we carry. That's a cool game.
Again, that's an Osprey game.
Yep.
Not by. I don't think that one. Hang on, is Rangers Shadow Deep Joe as well? It might be.
Rangers of Shadow Deep we carried. It's put out by
Osprey.
Modifius, but Modifius publishes it.
Really?
Yeah.
Rangers Shadow Deep. Okay, my bad.
I mean, unless there's more than one Rangers of Shadow Deep.
Right. Possibly. I might just be getting confused with something else. But anyway, back to
maybe to answer Scott's question, maybe during like one of the big shows that we do that some of those guys come over for.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Maybe that week we could get them on.
Yeah, definitely would do that without a doubt. The other game, I played another game. I played a 1,000 point game of 40k with my Leagues of Votan.
How'd they do this time?
Well,
wait. Was this against the World Eaters?
This is against World Eaters. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell the lovely folks at home what they missed, because I've heard this story. It is brutal.
So it was a fun. I ran a fun list. I had 2 units of warriors, one led by the Carl, so the warlord of the Votan, and one led by the Grimnir, who's the space dwarf wizard. I had 2 units of bikers, the hover bikes. I had 1 unit of the Hearthguard, the Einherjar Hearthguard, who are like the mini Terminators, and I had an Einherjar champion leading them, and they were in the Hecaton Land Fortress, which is the big chunky vehicle with the rail cannon on top.
The Herkimer Battle Jitney.
And I was up against World Eaters, so 2 units of Berserkers with a Warlord on Juggernaut leading one of them. He had a Forge Fiend, which is the one that has I think he had like the assault cannons on the arms and the plasma in the mouth.
Yep.
And a Lord of Khorne Lord of Battle.
Lord of Skulls.
Lord of Skulls. Okay.
It's the giant minivan Titan.
Yeah. So it's like the Centaur kind of thing, where it has the big track unit section, and then the big model up on top where it's wielding the huge axe, and the massive Vulcan mega boulder kind of thing, and then a big gore cannon in its chest. So it was kind of crazy. They'll let you know that Lord of Skulls is 480 points.
Yeah, you brought a very fun, balanced, like kind of fluffy list, and he brought like a super neckbeard like meta list.
No, it wasn't. It could have been that, but it wasn't done intentionally like that. Basically, he brought what he had assembled. So he's still working on it. He's still assembling. But to get to 1,000 points, that's what he had. So it was fine. I was okay with it. It was a little bit frustrating because there were a couple of times when actually each round, I think we only made it to, like, I was tabled at the end of the 3rd round, essentially tabled at the end of the 3rd round. But each round I managed to get a shot that hit the Lord of Battles with the Magna Rail Cannon, which does d6 plus 6 damage. But his invulnerable save of 5+ saved him twice. And if either one of those shots had made it through, I would have destroyed it. But no, it was pretty good. There was a crazy moment where I probably mistakenly shot at some Berserkers with some plasma, killed a couple of them, and then they surged forward and got into engagement range with my Einherjar Hearthguard.
They react to being shot. They get to move.
Yeah, they get to move. So so in my shooting phase, I was in range to be able to shoot them and then charge whatever was left. And 6 guys in the unit, lots of attacks, high strength, that kind of thing. That was going to do a pretty good job of clearing them out. But because he surged, he got into engagement range with me, which meant we're essentially already in combat. He didn't count as charging, but also I didn't count as charging. And so in that situation, once you finish doing all of your charging units, fighting with them, the play sort of hands over to your opponent, so they get to pick the next unit that fights. And so, of course, he fought with his berserkers and killed like half of my Hearthguard before I got to swing. So, mind you, when I swung back with my 3 remaining guys, I killed like 6 of his berserkers. But it was a
they're definitely one of those armies that like you as the opponent, like you have to understand what they do.
Yeah.
And like I played a game, or we were watching a game, and I was like, some kid was like, "What should I do?" And I was like, "You should focus all of your firepower on whatever the closest unit is and blow it off the board." And he was like, "Yeah, but if I shoot it, they move." And it's like they move at the end of the shooting phase.
Yeah.
So
if it's not
you
there,
just want to kill it. You just want to kill that unit so it doesn't get to do that. And he was like, "Okay." I was like, because if you shoot all of his units, yeah, you're going to thin them down, but then they all get to move.
Yep.
So
yeah, the one thing that I did like, that I was excited about for my army is I'm glad that I did paint up my converted space dwarf wizard,
nice.
so he's less wizardy. But he gives the unit that he's with toughness +1 toughness, so they go from toughness 5 to toughness 6, which is pretty beefy.
Yeah.
So definitely quite nice.
Yeah, Jez is 100% right. Don't shoot them; you'll just make them angry. That's exactly what happens.
Yep. The game sounds like a Thanksgiving miracle. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Oh yes, Scott. Happy Thanksgiving happy Canadian Thanksgiving for yesterday, Sunday. I'm not sure when you guys have it.
It was definitely like a day or two ago. So yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. To all of our Canadian friends. But yeah, so super excited about that. I got a lot more paint on my Infernus Marines. Yay!
They look great. I really like your paint scheme.
Yeah, it's coming along. It's one of those things where it looks better with friends. So as a one-off, it's okay. But when there's lots of them, that looks pretty cool. So I've got a unit of Infernus Marines painted there. I think I had the Eliminators done last week, didn't I? I just haven't finished their basing. So
yeah, their rules are so good.
So I'm kind of excited that they're so good. I didn't realize they were, but I thought they'd be a little bit crappy.
Yeah, the Eliminators they're just awesome.
I can't remember did I show that last week?
Yeah.
So I grabbed some of my Phobos guys.
You gotta give them the rolled up cloak.
Right. Yeah, I've got to do that.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, because of their cloaks, if they're in cover, I think they get +1 cover.
Okay.
Which is nuts. And then if you shoot them, they get to move.
Right. Yeah. That's the big one.
So like the Khorne Berserkers, but the difference is that if you shoot them, you want them to back up, so then you can't assault them.
Yep.
If they don't move in your turn, they get +1 to hit on when they shoot, and then they have precision, so you can pick out like, I'm gonna kill the sergeant, or I'm gonna kill the heavy weapon dude, or I kill the apothecary. Like it's nuts. Like lookout, sir, doesn't work on them.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I pile all of my last fusel shots into your captain.
Yep.
So yeah, they're good.
Jeff says, I watched the live stream of the Michigan GT, watched the Leagues of Votann army and a Sisters of Battle army take on World Eaters. Brutal, but the Sisters pulled off a win. Excellent.
Yeah, the Sisters with all of their magic.
Although they
are a nasty list.
And Scott said, Thanksgiving is the second Sunday in October. Mostly we give thanks for not having it in November, a month before Christmas.
Yeah,
that's fair. I'm okay with having it anywhere, really.
I look at it. I look at it
my
as just
favorite
like
holiday.
It's the beginning of the eating season.
Everyone deserves a holiday between Halloween and Christmas. This is true. But yes.
Scott, I'll tell you what. In my magnanimous decree, I will allow you, a Canadian, to celebrate American Thanksgiving.
You can do both.
You can do it. It's allowed. You can do both. Why not have 2 Thanksgivings?
That's pretty cool. I think we should have 2 Thanksgivings.
I agree.
We've had one Thanksgiving, but
Yeah.
what about second Thanksgiving?
We've had one Thanksgiving. Yes.
Excellent. Cool. So yeah, I did that. Got some stuff. Forgot the I have a apothecary
Nice.
on the way. I have a judiciary underway,
Yeah, he's pretty good.
and I have a chaplain underway.
Nice.
So
Would you give him for a head?
he has a Reaver head
Oh,
because
nice.
it's the the Emperor's Champion
Nice.
body. But I bought this guy when I was in Iceland,
Nice.
so I gotta have him.
Yeah,
as
the Reaver
key
heads are
thing.
the best. I'm trying to get my hands on more of the regular Reaver helmets, like the full helmets with the skulls.
All right. Okay.
I want to get a bunch of them for my death company.
Okay. I probably have some, so I'll go along and clip some off sprues later.
That would be rad.
Cool. But I guess the next thing that we can talk about is what we're going to be launching next week on the show.
Okay, sure, we can do that.
So, folks, for one show a month for the next 6 months, thereabouts.
Yep.
October, November,
Yep.
December, January, February, March.
Yep.
That kind of makes sense. We're going to do
So for the rest of this season and the first 3 episodes of next season.
well, not the first 3 episodes, but the first 3 months of
Yeah,
next season.
yeah.
We're going to do just switch up the format a little bit, and we're going to be doing a Tale of 4 Warlords. So, or Tale of 4 Gamers, Tale of 4 Warlords, whichever one you like. We'll probably
It's
use
basically me. It's me,
interchange.
Dave, and 2 friends of ours, and we're gonna be painting stuff.
Yes, we are. So we might actually paint it on the show, but we'll be getting together, talking about what we're working on, why we're painting what we're painting, why we've added what we're adding each month, that kind of thing.
And anybody viewing who wants to join on, absolutely, you guys can send stuff in, and we'll talk about it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's basically so Dave and I have it. It's more so like we have a structured reason to get stuff done, and I do better with deadlines, it seems. So having a project that I have to work on means I'll get some stuff painted.
So it's going to be kind of helpful for him. So I'm just going to transition. I got some photos of our other 2 victims, compatriots.
Esteemed guests.
Esteemed guests. There we go. So we have on the left there, we have Jeff Smith, who is going to be painting some, what are they called? The wolf spears?
Yeah, he's doing wolf spears.
Wolf spears, which is the chapter that was introduced in White Dwarf. So they're one of the Primaris successor chapters to the Space Wolves.
Yep.
And on the right is John Schaefer. So Jake and I used to work with these guys back at GW.
So now there'll be 4 XGW guys.
Crazy, so much extra GW. Yeah, John Schaefer is currently undecided as to what he's going to be working on. He doesn't know whether he's going to do Dark Angels, which have always been a big love of his, or Imperial Knights. I am going to be doing what do you call it?
Your Falling Stars.
My Falling Stars, yes. So my own Primaris chapter. And Jake, what are you going to be doing?
So I'm on the fence. I'm gonna wait until Saturday when the new codex drops, so I can check it out, look through it, and figure out what I think I want to play. But I've narrowed it down to 1 of 3. So I'm either gonna do. I have a Phobos army that I've had pieces for a long time, and I've just never done anything with it. So I might build them as Phobos Marines, and then I'm probably gonna paint them up as Alpha Legion, and then I'm going to run them as basically Raven Guard. Because that's the most Alpha Legion thing I can think of. But it'll be all Phobos dudes. They look great. I have, like we talked about, I have that Phobos box that I basically set aside. And when I was sorting out my minis, I was like, oh, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. So option 1 is Phobos dudes, and they'll be Alpha Legion.
Yep.
Option 2 is I'm gonna keep working on the Flesh Eaters, so they're Blood Angel successor. I would do them all as Primaris Marines. I've got a couple of squads built, and I've got one squad that's mostly painted, but I would just add a ton of stuff to it because like it's nowhere near a 2,000 point army.
Right.
Or the third option is I might recreate my 3rd edition through like 7th edition Blood Angels list. That's all jump troops.
Right.
But none of them exist as Primaris Marines. So now that the Primaris scale stuff is out, I might just rebuild the entire army all Primaris scale. Because right now it's like I still own it. So it's Dante, a 5-man honor guard, a Death Company Dreadnought, 2 10-man jump squads, 2 jump apothecary or sanguinary priests, Lamartes with a 10-man Death Company.
Yep.
I think technically it's a 15 because in the last couple of rule sets you can do up to 15, but I think it's a Death Company squad, and then I run either a Librarian Furioso,
Right.
or I do a Leviathan Relic Dreadnought, and then I run a Storm Raven.
Right.
So if I upgrade it all to Primaris Marines, some of that stuff's going to swap out. Like I might dump the 2 Dreadnoughts and do 2 of the Brutalis Dreadnoughts.
Right. Yep.
Because that would be kind of cool. But I also like the idea of just doing the Death Company Dreads. Like their rules are really fun, and who doesn't love Death Company Dreadnoughts? Like just the idea of this is amazing. It's like an angry soda machine that's trying to kill you. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm gonna wait until the new codex comes out and I'll decide. But it'll be one of those 3.
Excellent. Jump back in. Scott says, Jeff, November 11th is a holiday in Canada. So November 11th. So here it's Veterans Day. I'm not sure what they call it in Canada, unless it's Armistice Day. Might be
I
Armistice
think it's
Day.
Flapjack Day, right? It's the day that Flapjacks were invented.
Every day is Flapjack Day.
Okay, all right, that's
in Canada. And Scott says, American Thanksgiving, have some the turkey cycle. We're fine up here, but you folks got to get it together. Mind you, everyone should eat ham and beef anyway. Sean Gleason has joined us. Hello, Sean. Scott says, the new format sounds great, but promise you'll never stop allocating 25% of your viewing area to a drill. Certainly we'll allocate 25% of our viewing area to a drill tonight. That's what I can promise you. And Jeff says, as well as having 4 ex-GW guys, we've got 2 former Battlefront guys as well. So myself and Jeff.
Yeah, but then he wrote kind of.
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah, for sure. So I wasn't I wasn't working on Battlefront stuff. I was working on Wargames Illustrated, which just happened to be owned by Battlefront at the time.
Okay, so yeah, I'd give you that.
Yeah, that's the kind of part. It just says you can paint any miniatures and say they're Alpha Legion. All 4 of you are probably actually painting Alpha Legion, and you'll not even know.
I mean, I'll know because I'm Alfarius, but
isn't everybody Alfarius?
Well, I mean, but I said it, so
okay, right. You're up there first. Josh says Lord of the Rings Hobbit Militia. Surprise! Alpha Legion.
Now that's some trickery right there.
Excellent. Scott says it's Remembrance Day. Cool. There we go.
Nice.
Okay.
All right, let's get into the weirdness. What do we got for
the weirdness? So yes, the weirdness. This was obviously it was a bit of an odd one that we started talking about like right at the end of last week's show.
Yeah.
That kind of strange sort of things that some people do when they're participating in the hobby, be it building or painting or playing, that actually, as just saying that, I'm reminded I need to say we're at 336 subscribers right now. We would love to get, we said like 350 by next week. So
I would love to get 350 by next week. Please tell everybody you know. Please
share it around and get folks to subscribe. We'd love to get to 500 by the end of the year, end of the season. That'd be awesome. So we've got 10 weeks to do that. Also, a big thank you to our season sponsor, the Army Painter. you can follow a link to the Army Painter in our notes below.
For sure.
Hooray!
We have speaking of the Army Painter, Dave and I have a meeting with them, hopefully either a day this week or a day next week.
To talk a bit more.
And we'll update you folks with news following that meeting, but that should be good.
Should be fun. Definitely. But yes, I was talking about, so things that we do that we kind of have to do, we feel compelled to do, we must do every time that we're working on something. I think it was spawned by Jan last week posting that he absolutely has to scrape the mold lines off his bases. So talking about the plastic bases that sometimes have a little nub, sometimes have a little bit of flash on it, but he has to go through and scrape all of the bases regardless of what he's got.
That one made me laugh.
Do not do that.
I didn't even realize that my bases have mold lines. I mean, if it's something particularly egregious, I might do it, but sure. I'm not ringing all my bases. Like
if there's only a little slight bit, you're not going to worry about it.
If there's like a burr or like a little nub, like I'll cut that off.
Yep.
But I'm not like going around the rims of all the bottoms to like remove any like. I was like, I don't need to do that. I don't need that.
I generally do it, but I don't obsessively do it. Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting thing. But what we asked you guys to let us know what your hobby foibles, your hobby OCDs were, and we've got a pretty decent mix through there. It was kind of interesting to see that there. I don't know if I have one at all. I don't, like, sometimes I won't get all the mold lines, and that's okay. I'd like to try and get most of them, but I know I'm generally going to miss. And it usually shows up when once I've primed the model. Yep. It's like, oh, it's way more obvious now. Let me just go and scrape that a little bit, paint over it. But
yeah, like I said, I think my big one is the pin vise. Like I love the idea of having a pin vise. So yep. I always drill out my bolters.
Right. That's why the pin vise is pointing at you on the screen.
Yeah, it's
here.
fine. It's fine. I did it.
You always drill out your bolters?
Yep.
Okay. So I used to always drill out my bolters, and then I guess my drill bit got a little bit worn and wasn't as sharp and precise. So there's a time there where most of my bolter drilling was going a little bit askew.
Yeah.
So I just went, you know what? I'm just gonna make sure that that's flat, and then I'll just put a little double black on the end once I finish painting it. So from a distance, it looks like it's like a drilled out barrel, but
I always drill out the bolter barrel.
Yeah.
And then I go through the sides and I get the baffles, the flash baffles. Muzzle flare.
You do that on everyone? Like bolt pistols as well?
Yep.
Okay. That's kind of crazy. One of the things I have been doing lately is knowing with this army that you're going to be spending a bit of time looking at it. I'm going back to drilling out the barrels on these guys. So, but I'm starting with.
I don't do it. I don't necessarily do it on all my weapons. Like I don't do it on plasma guns really because it looks weird, and I don't do it on the flamethrowers because I think that looks weird too. I only do it on bolters for the most part.
Right.
Unless it's like some weird gun that it needs to do it. Like I usually just do bolters, bolt pistols, bolt guns, heavy bolters. Like
what about plasma guns, melter guns?
Not really.
No?
I don't run a lot of plasma, but I don't think I've really done a lot of plasma guns.
Okay, interesting. That's kind of weird. I've been using my my hobby knife as to poke a hole in the center of the barrel.
Yep.
Then just give it a quick scrape to create a circle.
Yep.
And then
I usually use a thumbtack.
Oh, okay.
I have a really sharp thumbtack, and I'll just poke a hole in the middle of all the bolters, and I push it to force it out a little bit.
Yep.
So then when I use my pin vise has a place to bite.
Right. Okay, that's a good idea. I haven't thought of that. That's a nice one. I think that's good. But so for me, drilling out the barrels, it's not essential.
That's fine.
But so I guess that's why it goes in there. But why do you think you do it? Why do you think you need to?
I think I just do it because I think it looks cooler.
Okay.
But like I always do it. Like the ones I did for the store, like the half of the Ultramarines, the Crimson Fist I did.
Yep.
I did all their barrels.
Right.
And the
Excellent.
Stormbolters are a lot bigger than they used to be.
Right. Yep.
So I had to make sure I centered those right because I was like, man, this is gonna look weird. I also have a really small. I have a tiny drill bit set.
Okay. Yep.
So I can swap out my bits and get different sizes.
Right. So you haven't got to the point yet where you've got like 3 different pin vices.
I do have 3 different pin vices. I have 2 in my kit, and I have one at home, one at the store.
Right. But do you have different sized bits in there?
Yeah, I usually keep the bigger one in the old, because the old one had the double-sided bracket.
Yep.
So remember the all metal one, not the one that's on the picture.
Yep.
So I have the all metal one with the hex. Yeah, that one. So that one, if you unscrew the top, the holder inside,
Yep.
the other side of it is bigger.
Yep.
Yeah. So like I have that one with a slightly bigger one in it, and then I have the new one with the smaller one in it.
Right. Good.
Yep. You just flip it over and it's a different size socket.
Yep. Cool. Excellent. Yeah, I agree with you. It does look better. I'm not sure that it's worth my time.
Yeah, I mean, like if I was doing something for like a speed painting contest, like I don't have to do it. I just think it looks cool, so I just do it.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Next fun one that we've got. So Dan Osborne was saying that he is super focused on mold lines and making sure all mold lines are cleared from his thing. So Dan was the very first guest we had on the show back in season 1. I think it's episode 6. But Dan also does a lot of Titans, does a lot of Knights, that kind of thing. A lot of big models. So he's very focused on getting those mold lines out of the way, filling in gaps, polishing those over. But he did say that he's very process focused. So he has a painting flow that sort of works through and that he applies to each project. So there might be slight variations to it, but no more than 1 or 2 slight variations to it, to the process.
I would be willing to bet with most of us that are gamers, most gamers are fairly detail oriented. I would be willing to bet that most of us have a process that we probably follow 70% of the time.
Right.
And like whether I'm building a model kit for Warhammer or if I was building a Starship Enterprise model, like I think there's a lot of things that I would do the same.
Right. In the same order.
Yeah, like, okay, so I'm going to snip all my pieces and put them in like, okay, that's this engine or like that's this guy. And then I'm going to, kind of go through my building process a specific way. And then I'm going to look for mold lines on all the pieces. Like, I think there's a lot of things that I would like do the same.
Right.
But not necessarily the whole process because it's a different project. But so, I mean, I get that. I can understand being process driven. I get that.
Yeah. I think I go through and I end up, depending on what the project is, I create a new process for each project.
Okay.
You're right. They're always going to end up being similar, but sometimes like with these Marines, like I have 5 incursors here that I built, but I didn't clip them all out at once and make little piles and then clean up each of the piles and then assemble them one at a time kind of thing. I think I clipped out 2 of them and put them together, cleaned them up, put them together, and then clipped out 3 of them and cleaned one of them up and put it together. It was kind of jumpy and chopping and changing. But once I get into painting, it's working out what the steps are to be the most efficient particularly for batch painting or large painting. So yeah, and that can generally change. That's going to change model to model.
Right on.
Or unit to unit, I guess. Models within the same unit will get the same treatment at the same stage.
Right.
Next up was Travis Ramsar said washing models. He still goes through and he has 2 different processes, one for washing resin models, one for washing metal models. So I found that was quite interesting. I know that resin models, particularly from a lot of smaller manufacturers, and certainly previously GW resin or Forge World resin.
I was gonna say it's not just the smaller companies; it's the big ones that
Sure, yeah. Have used a lot of they use mold release agents, so they generally a spray of some kind, so you can come out a little bit greasy. I think with silicon molds for metal miniatures, they use cornstarch to sort of powder the molds first.
Okay. Yeah.
So it makes it easier for them to get the metal miniatures out of there. So Travis has a thing where he goes through and he'll wash all of his resin and metal models to get them prepped. Make sure they're squeaky clean.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sent you that. One of the ones I sent you was something similar. Like I definitely have had models in the past that I have taken them out and they'll feel a little squidgy or like you said, like almost like greasy, like there's something on the model. And I used to religiously take all, like even if it was GW, whatever, I would take out all the polystyrene frames, if they're resin, even worse, and put everything like in a strainer.
Okay.
In the sink, like I would put the stopper in, and I would fill up the sink with warm water, not hot. You don't want to bend the models, but like warm water with like Dawn detergent.
Okay.
Basically, all the time, you always want something with like a grease cutting action.
Yep.
And I would just throw them in there and let them sit.
Right. Okay.
And if it's a Forge World kit or a resin model, I'll let them stay in there for days. Like I'll get like a Tupperware and I'll fill it up with soapy water.
Yep.
And make sure there's a ton of Dawn detergent in it, and I'll just let them sit there for like days.
Okay.
And then once it's done, I'll take them out and I'll give them like a scrub or something with like a toothbrush, and then I just rinse them all off and use like a colander or a strainer and strain them out, and then I'll let them air dry, and then I'll put them together. But yeah, I think they've gotten a lot better. Like GW and a lot of the companies that do a lot of like high production stuff, their plastics, like it's not like you need to wash them.
No.
But back in the day, you definitely had to. Like there were certain kits that would come and I'd be like, these feel weird. Like you can feel that they're a little like greasy or slippery. And it's like you don't want to prime them with that because the primer will stick in certain spots, and then your paint coverage isn't right, and it just makes a whole bunch of problems for you. So,
yep.
If you wanted one that's related, it's one of the ones I sent you. It's the Diet Coke trick.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. So
I might be, but go in.
So Chris Kemming builds a lot of Forge World kits, so he can probably attest to this. But we have another friend of ours who almost exclusively does Forge World like Titan and large model commission work.
Okay.
So like you pay for a Warlord and then you send it to him, and then he will build and paint it. And that's like, he does a lot of that as commission work. And I think he's done more than like 24 Titans at this point.
Wow.
But so he was talking about like the Diet Coke trick, and I was like, what's the Diet Coke trick? And he's like, well, so you take your Forge World model and you throw all the parts into basically like a big bucket or a bowl. And most of the resin pieces are big enough that they'll sink.
Yep.
And the little ones that don't, you take like a strainer or a colander, you turn it upside down, and you put it in.
Right.
So then all the little pieces are under that. And then you fill up that bucket with Diet Coke.
Right.
And then the carbonic acid that's in Coke eats all the release agent.
Right.
And then you leave it until the bubbles are gone, because when the bubbles are gone, all the carbonic acid's used up. And then you basically scoop everything out in the colander, rinse it off, and you're ready to go.
Okay.
And so I said, why wouldn't you want to use Coke instead of Diet Coke? And he goes, because there's no sugar in Diet Coke. And if you use Coke, your models they're all sticky from the sugar.
And the ants will go after them.
Right. So he's like, with the Diet Coke, you just rinse it off and you're good to go. And I was like, that's crazy. So,
yeah.
But that's another washing trick you can use. So he's like, oh yeah, you don't need to use a toothbrush or anything. He's like, the carbonic acid does all the work.
That's funny, because I was sitting there thinking, why not use Coke?
Why not use what?
Well, I was sitting there thinking, why not use Coke? And I was like, oh, it's probably because the sugar or the high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah. He's like, because then the problem is that once you're done with that and if you let them sit in it, then they're all sticky from the sugar. So then you have to like wash them again. Yeah. He's like, whereas the Diet Coke, you just rinse them off and you're good.
Right. Okay.
I was like, okay, cool.
If I am going to do any scrubbing for my resin models, basically I get a tub with some warm water and dish soap in it, and then pick the model up, drop it in there. Basically, I get like 4 or 5 pieces, put them in, then pull them out, give them a scrub with a toothbrush, rinse them off, and let them dry, air dry.
Yep.
And so they probably don't spend any longer than like 5 minutes in the water at any point. So it's a different timing for that, but very rarely do I do any other sort of intense prep work.
I mean, again, it's not like I'm building. I got to build like 3 or 4 warlords. Like I get it.
Sure.
His big thing was he was like, rather than sit around and soak and scrub, I don't even want to think about how many pieces a warlord is. He's like, I just put him in a tub with Diet Coke overnight.
Yep. It's 930,
like,
by the way. So.
Huh?
I said it's 930.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and scrub each one of those.
It's not.
It's a lot.
It's more like 230, but yeah, it's a lot of pieces. Some of them are very big pieces, but yeah. Excellent. Josh says, "You know what really makes those mold lines stand out? A final wash works every time." Yep. Jess says, "I've got to use the different water and different brushes for metallics. I've got to use different water and different brushes for metallics. I barely ever paint eyes. Life's too short. Never drilled a barrel." There we go. Yeah, different water and different brushes for metallics, and I think a lot of people do that. I do not, because
I don't use different water. I do it in a specific order. Like I'll do all my regular colors, and then I do my metallics last.
Yeah, I generally do my metallics last.
Yeah.
As well, but then I don't clean out my water before I go into paint again.
Oh, see, like when I'm done, I toss it and I start over again.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm terrible. Terrible.
You just chip through like the film that's on top of your water each time?
No, I look in there and see if anything's wriggling, and as long as nothing's wriggling, I'll keep using it. As soon as I see things wriggling in there, then I'll rinse it out.
Wow.
It's not that bad, but yes, and then just says, yeah, but the ants will paint everything. So maybe we'll have to have to get him to try it with the Coke and see if that works.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe surround it with like orange paint or something like that, and see if the ants track through it up into the.
That'd be kind of neat. Put little ant feet all over it.
It'd be great. Chris says, never tried that method before. I always just soaked it in Dawn. Yep.
Dude, Dawn's the best.
Give it a go. Try it out. But no, definitely cool. Okay. Next up, Patrick Dillon said he puts a drop of his own blood in every paint that he has.
I mean, blood for the blood god, I guess.
Sure. He said it seals the pact.
Sure.
So, Scott said a whole bunch of different things, but one of them I think that it sounds like it might be an actual thing, was that he paints with an old T-shirt in his lap as a rag.
I can see that.
That seems like it could be reasonable, like a reasonable thing to do out of all the other sort of crazy things, but I'm not sure if Scott actually does that. You'll have to let us know, Scott. And if you do, you have to post a photo of the rag. Yeah, we'll need to see it. Jeff says, when I place a new piece of paper on my wet palette, it can have. I'm guessing that's supposed to be. It can't have any wrinkles in it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, mine always has wrinkles in it. I just, again, don't bother with spreading it out. But yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I know a lot of people have use like hand towels, like actual towels.
So you definitely should, like, and I don't know if you ever learned this. So the whole time I worked at GW, we did not get taught brush care at all.
Okay.
Like, it just wasn't a thing. It was like, yes, you paint these models and whatever. And I was always like, oh, well, I'm going to take care of my brushes. Now, because I went to art school, like, I always took care of my paintbrushes.
Yep.
So it just made sense that I would continue to do that. But I would just clean them off.
Right. Okay.
So I remember I was sitting down for a tutorial. I think it was at Adepticon. This is got to be like 6 or 7 years ago. And Sam Sedgy from Games and Gears was there.
Yep.
And I was helping them cover the booth. And Sam was talking about how, like, you got to take care of your brushes, and he talked about how, like, you got to wash them off. And he's like, I'll get guys that'll come up to me here, and they'll go, oh, I don't have a nice sharp barrel. My brush is all, busted out. Like, what can I do? Like, your brush is supposed to have a warranty and all this stuff. So he'll take it, and he'll go, do you wash your brushes? And they'll go, yeah. And he'll go, do you clean your brushes? And they'll go, what do you mean? And he'll use brush soap,
Yep.
and he'll clean it out onto a towel, and he'll go, "You were using purple," and they're like, "How do you know?" And they're like, "Because there's purple in this brush," and they're like, "Oh, you put that on there," and he's like, "You just handed me this brush. This is your brush."
Yep.
And he's like, what happens is paint gets down into the barrel, and when it dries, it pushes the bristles out.
Yep.
So he'll like within 5 or 10 minutes, he restores it and has a nice sharp tip on it again. And I was like, oh, it's really cool. But he's like, you also shouldn't use paper towels. You should be using cloth. And I was like, why does that matter? And he's like, oh, so people always get their brushes wet, and then they zip it across their paper towels to like dry it off.
Right.
He goes, and you get little tiny friction burns. And on one side of the brush, it'll get shortened by the friction burn, and that's why your brushes get that hook on them.
Oh, okay.
If the brushes are all the same length, they stand up straight. As soon as they get shorter on one side, they want to hook over. And I was like, I don't know if he's full of it or if that's legit, but like that makes sense and that seems really cool. So, plus I guess you're also not wasting paper towels if you're using a regular hand towel. Like I'll just throw it in the washing machine or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I think you could still get friction can still occur between a brush and
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting to look at. But yeah, I know that when I think their initial sort of package they sold with their the Games and Gear brushes that had the brush soap and a towel.
Yeah. If you do their kit at Adepticon, yeah. I still have my brush soap from them. I use it all the time.
Yep. It just says no way, that's amazing, or nonsense.
Yeah, it could be either way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Healthy, it's definitely one of the two.
I was going to say it's probably a healthy dose of both.
Maybe. Well, third option.
Amazing and nonsense. But we'll see. Cool. Josh Potter said he never has more than a half an inch of water in his paint cup to avoid getting water going up the ferrule.
Okay.
That's a very interesting one.
Yeah, I don't think I worry about that. A lot of times I'll get paint on the barrel.
Right.
Like so I'll just rinse the whole thing off. Like that doesn't I don't really think I'm not that careful with it.
You mean like that?
Yeah, I usually am pretty meticulous about cleaning my brushes afterwards.
I'll send you this one and see what you can do with it.
I don't know if I can save that one, but
oh, I'm sure you can. It'll be perfect. You can do it.
Maybe.
Most of my brushes don't look like that. Most of them look.
Oh, see, I'm so meticulous with my brushes. That's pretty good.
It's glorious, is what that is.
I still have a double handful. Oh, God, I don't do that. I still have a double handful of brushes.
There we go. That's my one thing. That's my one thing. That's my thing.
Ben said that too. I asked Ben if he had any weird like building or painting foibles, and the only one he could think of is that he sometimes he puts his brushes in his mouth.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I've never done that.
Brush licking. I do it.
How are you pretty good with taking care of your brushes?
Yeah. Yep. I am.
So I remember we got a bunch of sample brushes from somebody, I forget who, and I was going to use them for a paint lesson, and we've been open for maybe a year at this point. So this is probably back in like 2018. And I go to sit down with the kids, and I've got my paintbrushes, and I say to Adam, I'm like, hey, where are all the paintbrushes? And he goes, what paintbrushes? And I was like, all the sample ones we got. And he goes, what are you talking about? I was like, remember I brought home like 30 or 40 sample brushes from one of the shows that I did. And he was like, oh, I used all those. And I went, on what? And he's like, no, I used them all. And I went, what do you mean you used them all? And he's like, oh, like I'll just paint with a brush until it's destroyed and then I throw it out. And I was like, do you not wash your brushes? And he was like, well, I mean, sometimes it depends on what I'm doing, but Adam does a lot of like dry brushing and glazing and layering. And I was like, you went through like a bag of 50 brushes by yourself. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I still have 2 brushes from when we worked at Games Workshop in 2003. Like, that seems crazy to me that you've obliterated 50 brushes in like 6 months.
Yep, that is crazy.
And I have a brush that's like closing in on 20 years old.
Well, when they're free, mate. When they're free.
When they're free, you make them last, so they're always free. Then you never need to buy brushes again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Madness. So, Josh, how does that work out for you? The no more than half an inch. Do you get longevity out of your bristles, or are you creating too much friction burn on the when the bristles are rubbing against the bottom of your glass there?
He's trying to prevent friction burn.
No, he's trying to prevent the water going up the ferrule, and one of the things that if you get too much water up the ferrule, it gets into the wood of the handle, and
Oh,
you
okay,
cause the
okay.
wood of the
I got
handle
you.
to expand, which causes the ferrule to expand, which lets the bristles
Yeah, so
fall out.
it'll loosen the barrel over time.
Of course, Josh may have just been messing with us.
Maybe.
He says, "Ha ha." So, Dave Hummel says that his Hobby OCD is always mold lines. It's always cleaning all the mold lines off, even on parts that he may not end up using, and that'll put aside into a bits bin.
I used to be really. I used to not care. I used to never,
Right.
ever do mold lines. Ever.
Yep.
For years and years and years. And then I started doing it with my my hobby knife, my X-Acto. And then I would only do stuff that was really obvious. So like if it was a mold line down the head of a Space Marine, I would do that.
Yep.
Or if it was like if I was going to do transfers and there was like on the shoulder pad, I would do that.
Yep.
But that was really it. And then I got a little bit better. So I used to, once they were built, I would go back and anything that was visible, I would then remove. So I would do like the outside of the legs, and I would do like the top of the backpack round, like the bells on the exhausts, the head, the tops of the arms, the tops of the bolter, things like that. And then with the new models, because a lot of the new kits are monopose,
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to look like until after it's like put together in terms of what's visible. So a lot of times I'll cut off all 14 pieces. I'll remove all the mold lines and I put them together. So I just do them as I go, but I would never remove mold lines from stuff I'm not going to use. That's just crazy.
Well, I guess the thing is that like, once you're there, once you're like, if you're ready to use that part, you've got it. It's good to go. You don't have to do anything else. But yeah,
Then I'll just do that when I need it.
yeah, I always do all my cleaning just before it goes on to the model.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting one, Dave. I guess if it's one of those things as well. Like for some people, cleaning mold lines is the zen of the hobby.
Yeah.
That's when they can just fade out and relax and be calm. So
it is kind of like a mindless task.
Yep.
So I think that there's a piece about that I think is really peaceful for people, and I get that. I think the hard thing for me now is I don't think I enjoy it as much because of the monopose aspect.
Right. Yep.
It's like, oh, I need parts 1 through 7 to build this first intercessor.
Right.
So like I'm like, okay, I find all the pieces and then I mold line those and then I build those before I move on to the next one. It would be kind of soothing and relaxing if I had if I was building the Jess Goodwin tactical box,
Yep.
I could just do the whole box because I can build them however I want. Like the pieces are interchangeable and but yeah, that's I mean I get that. I will say one thing that I thought was life changing, and you might agree or disagree. When GW released their mold line remover tool,
Okay.
so Adam and I this is before the store opened, so I think we were both working at the Warhammer store in Brookline.
Okay.
And he was telling me about it, and I was like, that sounds stupid. I was like, so it's like a small knife? He goes, no, it's not sharp. And I was like, I don't understand. He
That
goes,
sounds even more
"It's a
dumb."
right angle, it's a right angle piece of metal
Yep.
that has a hard right angle cut so that you use the right angle to shave the mold lines off, but you won't damage the model because there's no edge, and you'll never accidentally cut yourself because it's not a knife. And I was like, it's stupid. He's like, come in the store, I'll let you use mine. So I came and I used it, and as soon as I was done, I was like, I was wrong. This thing is amazing. Like, it's awesome. Like, I think it's great.
Yep. I'm sure it is great, and I'm sure it works for people. I never got one, and
I think I have two.
I've seen
I
it
have the
in
little
use,
one that
but-
came in the paint set.
right.
So right now, when you buy the Citadel paint set that has like 14 paints and a bunch of brushes and stuff, which is a great deal, it comes with their pocket version of it.
Yep.
So it's like a little tiny one. It looks almost like a car key. It's like this big,
Okay.
and you can like stick it in with your tools or whatever, and you take it out and you just hold it like basically right here
Yeah.
in your finger, and then you scrape all the models.
Okay.
Whereas the normal one has like a hobby handle and then the same thing on the end.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, they're both fine. It just depends on, how crampy your hands get. But honestly, it's really cool. Like I was like, oh, this thing is really neat, and I like it. It's so much easier to remove mold lines. There's no like, oh crap, I turned my knife the wrong way and I put a gouge in the model, or I cut off a piece of his hand or whatever. It's just you just use the mold line remover.
Yep. Okay. What about for some of the finer detail, like or getting into like somebody's holding the hand like that, getting in there with that big piece of metal? It's
like I would still use a hobby knife in certain instances.
Okay, right, yeah.
But normally, if a guy's hand is like that, it's usually because a bolter is going to sit in it, so I don't care. You're never going to see that.
Okay. Okay.
Usually.
Cool. A couple other things that we were talking about. One of them was sub-assemblies and separate, keeping heads separate for painting. So you're against both of those things?
Boo that man. So the only time I would do a sub-assembly is if it was something that like it was a necessity. So I'm trying to think of who's the new avatar? Not the avatar of Cain. The avatar of the Eldar God of Death.
Oh, Yvraine?
Yeah.
No,
so
not Yvraine.
The Incarn.
The Incarn. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Incarn is the avatar of Ynead.
Right.
So
okay.
it's the weird sort of spirally floating guy like
Vortex
so
of Deadly
you
Energy.
have to do him in a sub-assembly because if you don't, you can't paint him because there's this big like kind of swirl around him.
Yep.
And he sits in the middle floating, and you're like, okay, so I could either build him all and then I can paint the guy, but then I can't really get the insides of those swirls.
Yep.
Like there's just no way to get your hand in there. So like he's something that you have to do with sub-assemblies. Like I get that. Or there's a Sigmar model. It's like it's one of the Sigmarite dudes. It's the guy that's floating. Same thing. There's a big like vortex of power around him.
Right.
Same thing. You couldn't paint it right if you just built the whole thing.
Right.
Marathi is the same way because she's like wrapped around a column and she's got her wings are all turned in. If it's a model like that where like you have to do it, like you do it with your guys with shields, your breacher shields.
Yep.
If I can't physically get to the parts, I'll do a sub-assembly. Like I'll build all my guys without their shield arms, or I'll build all my guys without their capes or something. Like with the Space Marine, the new Space Marine captain, the Terminator one.
Yep.
I just didn't glue him onto his base so I could turn him over and get into the back where his cape is and everything.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a different angle. But that's usually the only time I'll ever do a sub-assembly is if I'm like there's no way to paint that.
Right.
But if it's stuff you're not going to see,
yeah,
like I won't bother.
Okay. Just look at mine. I've fully assembled.
Yeah, see what I mean? Like trying to get up underneath his cape is so hard.
Yeah.
So I just didn't glue him down until I was done.
I think I just got a little bit excited, overexcited.
That's a great model.
And then did all that. Yeah.
Also, your paint scheme is really dark. As long as he ends up with like a black cape, you're never gonna know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But with my guy being a Crimson Fist, I did the red cape with the tan inside.
Right. Okay.
And I was like, I'm never gonna be able to do that. if I glue this guy together.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I don't know. I just didn't think about it when I was doing it. But no, that's cool. Makes sense. For sure. Yeah, there are times when I'll do, I think, sort of keeping heads separate. So my Votan, they have those high collars.
Yeah.
And then they have the padded sort of stuff on the inside of the collar. And if you put the heads in, like glue the heads in before you paint that, however, like you paint the face and then you go to paint that sort of interior of the collar, you're going to get whatever the collar color is on the face, or if you're going to get the face on the collar color, all that sort of stuff. So I keep those separate
Okay.
for that kind of purpose. Or I think if it's a like makes it easier for a color scheme, like to have leave the backpack separate or the head separate, where you can spray all these bits white, spray all these bits black.
Yeah, that's
together.
different. Like I don't view that as
Efficiency.
I mean, it's still a sub-assembly, but
Yeah.
I view that as part of like a painting plan.
Right,
Like there are
okay.
people I know who, like I was talking to some kid a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I do all these in sub-assemblies," and I was like, why though? And he's like, oh, because it's just easier when I do the painting. And I was like, but you're just making more work for yourself. Like I forget what he was painting. It was like line troops.
Yep.
And I was like, once they're done and you put them together, though, you're never going to see that work that you did.
Yep.
It was some weird subassembly. It was like I'm doing subassembly so I can paint both sides of my bolters and like my chest eagles. And I was like, right, but then as soon as you assemble that guy, you can't see the eagle and you can't see this side of the bolter that you painted. I was like, if you're not going to see it, I'm not going to paint it. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
But for him, he knows that it's there.
Sure.
Painting.
If that helps you sleep at night, great.
I think it's
Like when I did I do this when I paint Imperial Knights, and when I did my the article I did for Bella Lost Souls a couple years ago, the One Day Warlord. So in 8 hours, I built, primed, and painted a Titanicus scale warlord. So the guy that's like the size of a knight.
Yep.
And I did him. I painted the base skeleton.
Yep.
Bolt gun. And then I painted all the armor plates red because I was painting it as a fire wasp.
Right.
And then I did all the washes. I almost painted them basically on the sprue and then snipped them off and then glued them on.
Yep.
But I mean, I don't know that I would consider that a sub-assembly. I just did it because it was a different paint. It was a whole different paint scheme.
That's a sub-assembly. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not all assembled, it's in sub-assemblies.
Sure.
By very,
But
by
I'm
very
talking about people that
definition.
like build
Yeah.
stuff. I'm talking about people that build stuff part way to then paint both sets part way to then assemble the full model. Like I don't normally do that. That is not something that I do regularly.
Okay. No. That's fair. I don't do it a lot, but I will do it for certain things. Even to the point where I have on the top of my painting handles, I've gone and added pieces of paperclip so that I can have. So this is the head for a Necromunda model who has a super elaborate collar.
Yeah, see that makes sense. Like there's no way to get that.
Yeah. So I'll do it with things like that. One of the funny things, though, so I did that with my Sagittars. I think you remember that.
Yeah, and then you lost your pilot, but then you found your pilot.
Yeah, my pilot was sitting up there the whole time, but I didn't know where the pilot was. I thought it'd fallen out of the cockpit, so I had to make a new pilot. And as soon as I'd finished making the new pilot, I found the old pilot up there.
See? Another reason not to do sub-assemblies. Like I said, I get it. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff is going to be personal opinion. That's just one of those ones that I'm like, that just seems like way too much work. I just wouldn't do that.
I think doing it all the time can be it can be way too much work. But yeah. Just quickly, Jeff says the pocket version has a file side on it as well. Interesting.
Ooh,
With a
nice.
scraper. And Jeff says that's a beautiful mini. That Necromunda mini, yeah, it is definitely
Is that that's supposed to be Lord Helmar's like niece, right?
daughter, like 13th
Daughter, okay.
13th child or something like that.
Nice.
But yeah, so I've got to try and get her done for Adepticon. Maybe I'll do it for
I
Golden
believe in you.
Demon. I don't know.
Plenty of time.
Could be. Yeah, could be plenty of time. Obsessive pinning is one that you had on your list.
Yeah, so I have a friend who builds stuff, and he used to pin everything,
Right.
and I was like, you don't need to pin those, and he was like, well, yeah, but like this way they won't break, and I was like, I mean, I guess like he would pin. He used to do a bunch of like flying assault marines and stuff.
Yep.
So he would like have terrain, and then he would drill into the terrain, and then drill into the assault marine, and then pin the assault marines in place.
Yep.
And they'd be plastic models, and I was like, but he would like drill up into the assault marine's leg, and then he would drill into like whatever the piece of terrain was. So then he would like have the guy like anchored in place. Again, everybody's got their own thing. I was just like, this just seems
That's what
wasteful.
That's what I'm going to be doing for my like my Inceptors.
You're gonna pin them?
I will pin them to a piece of terrain, yeah, rather than use a flight stand.
Now, is the pin gonna be visible?
No. No, the pin won't be visible. Basically, their foot will be standing on a piece of, like, there'll be like a steel girder or a rock or whatever. something interesting. I was talking with my buddy Mark today, and I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to make some tactical rocks." And he goes, "Why don't you check out like 3D printing?" So I went to my mini factory and typed in tactical rock, and there's somebody on there. I think Imitation of Life is the name of the creator. He has a thing like $5. You can buy a whole bunch of tactical rocks that you can print. It was fantastic. I bought them, of course. Like, sure, you can go out and pick them up off the ground, but I bought them because I thought that it was so cool that he'd used the term tactical rock.
So I'm doing something similar to what you're doing with the suppressors.
Right.
So I hate flight stands. I think the clear plastic flight stands, like, they're cool. I like what they're supposed to do. My problem is that, like, every single time I've used them, they break.
Yep. It's because you're not.
Because they're like a different. Yeah, they're a different plastic. They're brittle. They snap all the time.
Yep.
So what I did was I bought a bunch of the 40K. Remember the 40K Hero Bases kit?
Yeah. Yep.
I have that. So there's a bunch of like arches and like, tactical rock pieces and weird like sort of bits of terrain.
Yep.
So I have all of those bases built up, and then I have all of my suppressors on them. But I'm debating whether or not I just want to glue them in place or whether I want to magnetize it so that I can take them apart and put them in my case easier.
Oh, okay.
So I may magnetize each foot. So instead of pinning it, I would just magnetize it.
Right. I think. Did you want to then segue into obsessive magnetizing?
Sure. Josh wants to know if someone was pining for the fjords. It's different.
Different than pinning for the fjords. Yeah, I think just to go on pinning, like there are times when pinning is good and is important. I think if you are painting in sub-assemblies, or if you're painting a model separate from its base, its final base, because so you can get in to make sure everything's painted on the base. Because sometimes, like, obviously this guy here, in between his legs, I'm going to be able to see that sort of at this back spot here, but it's going to be tough to get to with a paintbrush. So having him separate would make it easier for me to paint the base and get it all done. And then gluing him paint to paint, or paint to paint and pigment, or whatever it happens to be on the base, isn't particularly sturdy. So having a pin through there is, I don't see that as obsessive pinning. But,
so what I'll do a lot of times when I do bases, because the best way for glue to work is that it has to be bare plastic to bare plastic, or bare metal to bare metal, or whatever. So I try not to glue paint. So what I will do is, if I know I'm going to have to do my bases separate, I will use a little jot of like poster tack or green stuff, and I'll stick all my guys on the bases when I prime them.
Right. Okay.
So that way, when I take them off, it's the bottom of their feet is bare plastic, the base is bare plastic. So when I'm done, I just glue them back where they were. Okay. That way, it keeps me from, like, to your point, like having to prime both models, and then, or I've also scraped off stuff with a knife so that there's some plastic to touch. But a little bit of poster tack or green stuff is, I always find it's just way easier.
Right. Okay. It's interesting that the only thing you want to use those drills for is barrels, drilling out barrels.
I mean, like I said, I've definitely pinned stuff.
Yeah.
Like whenever I do metal models, particularly if it's something really like big and heavy, like I'll pin that. Like when I built my Furioso, the old metal one, I pinned that. When I built my Hell Cannon, I pinned that. I built a dragon that had metal wings. I absolutely pinned that. I usually only use pinning to like sort of take the weight and help the bond to start. But if it's plastic models, I don't usually pin plastic models. They're just, none of them are heavy enough really to warrant it. So.
Okay. That's fair enough. Magnetizing then. Talking about magnetizing.
So I like magnetizing. I think there's a really cool thing you can do. I think the sort of the ease of getting your hands on rare earth magnets now is so much easier than it used to be. Army Painter sells a little pack of rare earth magnets. Gale Force 9 does the same. Like there's a company called Primal Horizon. That's all they do is sell rare earth magnets.
There's a company called the Magnet Baron.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He sells them. Like I don't think there's any shortage to being able to get your hands on like good magnets. But in terms of like magnetizing stuff, if it's something that you're either going to you want it to be mobile or separatable. Like I said, like my flying bases with my dudes, so that I can mix and match them. Like that's fine. Or if it's something that you might want to change out. Like a lot of times I'll magnetize like Titan arms and like Knight arms.
Yep.
Or like tank barrels. Like instead of running a Predator Destructor, I'm gonna run a Predator Annihilator. I'm just gonna swap the barrels.
Right.
That sort of stuff makes sense. My idea of the excessive magnetizing is like, I know guys that will magnetize every single weapon option for Space Marines.
Right.
Or like they're Tau guys. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
So they got magnets in the wrists.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
That is excessive for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It is kind of crazy. I generally go the other direction. I pretty much almost everything I do is glued in. So I'll pick whatever the weapon option is, mainly because for two reasons. So my what do you call them? Goliath rock grinders for my Gene Stealer cult list.
Yeah,
I magnetized the sort of the crew served weapon on the back.
Sure.
So you can either have the incinerator, the seismic cannon, or the las cannon. So these are magnetized, but as you can see, they're not painted.
On vehicles, I get it. On vehicles, I get it.
Yeah, but these ones, I magnetized them when I built the kit, and they've been sitting there on my lampshade for like since then, and that's like 4 or 5 years. I usually have the incinerators on there because I use the incinerators almost all the time.
Yep.
Which means that up in the case where the models are sitting, when I pull them out of the bookcase to take them to a game, almost all the time I forget that I have las cannon bits sitting there, so I don't take them. So for me, no magnetizing really works.
Right.
It's not a benefit, but yeah.
Jason wanted to know, how long does a pin typically need to be? So the rule of thumb that I always went by is you want at least. So I use paper clips a lot.
Yep.
So if I'm gonna, like, I remember the last guy I did, I think it was a frost giant, and he had like his one arm was like this, and then he had an arm with an axe, and it was also the worst cut I've ever seen.
Right.
It was like a random shoulder cut, and I was like, there's not enough material for the bond to happen. Like, this is crazy. So I used a paper clip, so I drilled into his body probably like 1/8 of an inch, or like,
Yep.
I would say between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. It definitely wasn't a quarter. It was less than that, but
Yep.
probably a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. And then I did the same thing into his arm, about 1/8 of an inch. And then I basically sort of eyeballed a piece of paperclip and cut it. And he made it about, I don't know, a 1/2 inch or a centimeter long, and put it in there, and then checked it and was like, oh, it's a little too long, snipped off a little bit, and was like, oh, cool, it's seated. And then I put glue on the pin. I put a little drop of glue on the end of the pin, and I stick it into the body, and I give that a minute or two to set up.
Right.
And then once that's done, then I put a drip on the other end, and then I put glue all around it, and then I stick the arm on.
Yep.
And then I'll usually either, like, I'll frame it, like I'll put pieces around it, or I'll pack it in green stuff, or I'll wrap it in rubber bands to hold it in place. And then the idea is the pin is holding the weight while the glue does its job and makes the bond.
Yep.
So because the glue isn't strong enough to hold it in place until it's dry, so the pin is kind of holding the weight. And then once that's dry, if I need it, I'll go back and I'll clean it up, and I'll use like green stuff to, like, fill any gaps and pack stuff in, stuff like that. But,
Yep. It's really, Jason, because so it's the different forces. So super glue, for example, is good in like tension. So when you're trying to pull it apart, that's when super glue is best. So there's tension, there's compression, which is when two forces are pushing together,
and then
shear, where it works that way. So when you've got two big flat metal things there, where the glue is good at sort of holding against tension, but it's not good against holding against shear, that's when you're going to get that thing falling off. So when you do the pinning there, the pin is designed to hold against that shear force. So
it's part of the reason why, if you ever super glue your fingers together, you don't pull them apart, because you'll rip the skin off you. Snap.
I've never tried that.
That's jarring. It's because it
Sounds
wants to go
great.
this way. But it's not good against shearing. So if you snap, you can usually get your fingers apart.
Okay, cool. I'll have to try that
Usually.
next time I accidentally glue my fingers together.
I don't work with super glue a lot.
Maybe later this week, I'm sure. Cool, excellent. No, I think that's an important thing. But yeah, for me, magnetizing isn't great, and I do have a bit of a chuckle sometimes when I see people who've got like, you got a plasma pistol, you got a bolt pistol, you got a hand flamer, you got all sorts of things that you can stick on your captain, and it's like, how many times do you change what you're using? Well,
yeah, I'm like, forget. I'm like, I'll just give him whatever the most expensive one is, and if I'm not using it, I say I didn't pay for any upgrades.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to now, which is fantastic. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. Excellent. There was something else I was going to say. So yeah, so there we go, Jason. I think Jake's right that 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters sort of thing, depending on the size of your piece. Sometimes if you've got a really large section, so if that had been a shoulder, like a cut on the arm there, where you've got a large area to work with, 2 pins can be good. And a way that you can do that is you basically you drill in to the body, you put 2 pins in, and then you cut them off just a little bit proud of the edge of the body there. So just as they're sticking through, cut them off, put some red paint on them, and then put the 2 pieces together. So the arm and that'd be the arm and the shoulder. So you can see where you need to drill into on the other piece. So you can drill in the right spot. You ditch those 2 shorter pins, drill in, put your longer pins. You're all good. So I didn't think we'd be talking about how to pin.
Yeah, I didn't either, but
But it's good.
it's a dying skill.
It's an important one, though. Very much so. Fantastic. And I think the last one that we're going to talk about is one that I'm sure many of us do. And when I say many of us, I say many of you. Many of you do. I don't do it at all. But we have a photo for this one.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And so this was John McMaster. He has to arrange his paints in like a kind of in a rainbow.
Chromatic progression.
Chromatic progression. There we go. That's a wonderful word for it. Chromatic progression.
I do the same thing just because I like knowing where my stuff is.
Yep.
Like and it's like when I teach people, when I was teaching lessons at San Diego, I talk about using a color wheel, and this just makes it easier. You're like, oh, there's my cool tones, there's my warm tones, there's my neutral tones. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Like, I don't think you necessarily need to go through and fully rainbow hue everything
Make it
from
perfect.
black to white. But I think having them like this, having them grouped, I think is helpful.
Right. Yep. I don't.
There's
have
also
that.
nothing worse than going, I need this green, and you're like, where is it? I have 400 paints on my desk. And you're like, oh, at least it's in this section.
It's here. Or it's over here. Where is it? No, it's not green. This is going to be yellow. I can't quite see it myself.
What do you have like 6
There it
paints on
is.
your desk?
6? No. Plenty. I'm not going to put them all out. I got about 100 paints on the desk. All in,
I like his idea.
in a
That's
crazy pile.
when I do mine. I usually have all my technical stuff off to one side.
Yeah.
I also pull the paints that I'm using for the project.
Right.
Like if I painted like this would drive me bananas because like I would need to move to another color and then I'd be like, where's that color? And it would like derail me.
Right.
So if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna paint, like when I did the Crimson Fists, I brought home like the 15 paints that I needed.
Right.
And then when I set them up, I was like, okay, there's my metallics, there's all my blues, there's my warm colors, there's all my technical paints. And I was like, cool, I'll do all the blue first. Cool, that's done. Do my, my black shade because I'm using a dark blue. Okay, cool, that's done. Dry brush that with blue. Okay, cool, I'm done with the blues. Move to the warm tones. Paint all the fists red. So I like to have just the colors that I need for this project. Very seldomly, I don't even have paints like that on my desk.
Right.
My paints live in a box unless I'm painting, and then I take out the colors that I need.
Right. Cool.
But
Nice.
I appreciate the type of mind he has where he's like, I need to group them by color group.
Yep.
I get that.
Josh said how it started. Yep. I wish mine started like that. And Jez says I stick them in groups like greens, blues, white, white bone kind of colors. Yep. No,
Yep.
that's good.
We have a lot of those white bone kind of colors.
Yep.
The whole left side of his stripe over there is all that.
Yeah. Yep. There's probably a lot
He's got all the whites. He's got white scar. He's got Praxetti white. He's got bleached bone. He's got Krieg khaki. I forget what's the other white.
I'm not sure.
There's the base and the layer. I know one of them is the white scar. I forget what the other one is.
I have like matte white, bold titanium white, and that's it.
That's a pretty good collection, though. He's got some of the old like hexagon top bottles. He's got some of the foundation paints.
Yep. It's good,
He's got some army painter mixed in there. He's got some Vallejo.
Yep. It's a good mix through there. But
He's got some. I think looks like he's got some privateer paints in there.
I think that's this is probably one of the OCDs that we'd all like we all dream of having.
What?
That lovely arrangement of paints.
I just don't have the space for it.
Well, but you'd like to have it, right?
Sure.
You'd like to have that right in front of you, and then you pull out your
yeah, and a cleaning lady that can come down and like remove all the dust off my stuff every couple of weeks. That'd be great. But
sure, be the way to go. Just says Jack White, Meg White, Great White, Barry White.
Yeah,
got them all.
Solid.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, that's it for our OCD conversation. Obviously, I should have included brush licking, but it wasn't until halfway through that I realized that brush licking is my OCD. I do that.
Gosh, I'm going to say that when Dave and I put out our own paint line, or when we put out a special kit with Army Painter, I'm going to make sure that all of our colors are named like that. So we'll have like, I'll have Great White, and then we'll have like Jack Black. Ruby Tuesday. Like it'll all be like names of people that are.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, we'll have to do that definitely. We'll get in touch, Josh.
I like that.
So we get your help naming them. So yes, we're at an hour 30. So let's jump into photos from the group.
Sure. What do we got?
We got a bunch. So first up is from Aaron Provost. So Aaron has a blog called the Painting Core. You should go and check out. He has just posted up a tutorial on how to make sort of deck bases, like flight deck bases. So go and check those out. So he's done these for a whole bunch of Imperial Guardsmen there.
Yeah,
of course.
He's got some Space Marines mixed in too. I see some Raven Guard in the back there. Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron's been doing up some very cool. We've seen some of his cool assault intercessors previously. But yeah, looking good. Looking nice. But yeah, definitely in the Facebook group there is a link to the Painter's Core. But it's the paintingcore.blogspot.com. You can go and check it out. Next up we have from Chris Gorka, we have a Lamates. So this is one of the I think it's
he's my favorite. He might be my favorite model. I just think he's rad.
Yeah. I think this one's has seen better days, but that got a little bit of a droop there on the Crozius.
Yeah, I don't know if he got microwaved or something, but he's.
Oh, it could be. It's probably a fine cast.
No, it definitely is a fine cast because he's only fine cast now. Okay. I'm thinking. So I own a Lamartes. I'm thinking about taking a bunch of his parts and using them with the Primaris Marines, so he'll be the right size.
Right. Yep.
Like his helmet is awesome. His helmet's great. Yeah, his jump pack's awesome. His belt buckle and his backpack straps with the chalice on it is great. But his feet are the best. The little skeleton toes.
Yeah, they are good. You can do that. You can cut out the plastic piece. You put green stuff in there. Use a knife. Do a little bit of sculpting.
I was just gonna cut his feet off.
Easy to do. Much easier than cutting feet off, for sure. You can do it. So looking good there, Chris. Chris has also painted up a whole bunch of Blood Angel infiltrators. And for these, he's gone for quite a muted, sort of desaturated red, which is pretty cool. Nothing good. Have they come up yet for you, Jake?
Yeah.
Excellent.
They're like the cranberries. I love it.
The cranberries?
Yeah.
How do you mean? Like a cranberry red?
Yeah, they're very cranberry.
Yep. They are good. Nice work, Chris.
If I do any Phobos dudes with my Blood Angels, I was actually thinking about doing them like in like a black and red camo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought would be kind of cool.
That would be neat. Mainly black with red splotches, or mainly red
Yeah,
with black
probably.
splotches?
I would love to be able to do digi camo, but that would take like a million years, so I'm not going to do that.
Sure, splotches is the way to go for multiple models.
Josh, I can absolutely defeat Lamartes.
Hang on. Have we had this conversation before?
What?
Or have I dreamt of this conversation?
Which one?
Whoa, I just had this crazy deja vu moment where it was like talking about taking the feet off Lamartes and camo on Blood Angels, like black and red
So we've
camo.
definitely talked about camo before. I don't think we've talked about taking Lamarte's feet off, though.
Okay. Whoa.
We've definitely talked about Lamarte's before,
Okay.
but not taking his feet off.
I'll have to go back and look through the footage, but ooh, that was crazy. Crazy deja vu there. Anyway, next up, so we have, I think this is Dallas Hutzel, was asking for people's thoughts on which color scheme for his
Dallas,
Gene Silas.
I've known Dallas since probably like 2004.
Yep.
He was a regular at my Games Workshop in Natick
Okay.
back in the day when I met you.
Right, okay.
He was a regular at my shop.
Excellent. And I think in this
I
post,
think I like the guy on the left.
yeah, I would agree. The that super glowing green and the purple, while like a lime green and purple work well, we know from the Hulk. I think that's probably a little bit too. Both colors there are super saturated.
Yeah.
So you need something that's desaturated. Whereas on the other one, the green is saturated. Now the red of the markings is saturated, but the blue green of the carapace is desaturated. So it's giving you a good
I also
balance
like
there.
that like the blue that he's using, because the green is so over the top, it makes it look almost more like a sea blue. It's more like
Right.
it looks like it has some turquoise notes in it.
Yep. Yeah. So I definitely also agree with that, Dallas. I'll go towards that. Then we have
And Jez agrees. Jez likes the striped head guy.
Showhead guy. Yep. And I must admit also that I've only just got Josh's comment. You can't defeat Lamartes.
He can't be defeated. You can defeat him, though.
Sure, there's a pair of clippers and
Yep.
done.
So
So
I'm much bigger than you.
Dave Hummel has received his Saint Sabat model. He had that commission painted, so it's
Very
now sitting in his shrine to Saint Sabat there. It looks fantastic.
I do love the 4 Christmas lights in the back. Do they light up?
I think they do. I'm not 100% sure, but I expect they do. You have to if they light up and flicker, we'll have to get a video of that, Dave.
That's pretty
Yeah,
rad.
looking super cool. Yep. Nice one there. Next up, we've got Jason Kohler. So Jason was asking about the pinning earlier.
Sure.
He has the Silver Dragon. I think this is a WizKids mini.
It is not up yet.
Coming up soon. But yeah, looking very cool. I think in the post he was like, I'm not sure what else I can do to it. I was like,
Yeah, I don't think you need to do anything else to it. I
don't
think it
need
looks
to do
really good. I
anything
like
else.
it.
Yeah. Definitely. But no, looking very very nice. I think it's good that in the body of the dragon, particularly sort of from the sort of shoulder forward, there's a lot of warmth in the undertones there, which works really well against the blue in the grey of the rocks.
Yeah.
But looking super cool there. And yeah, there is a bit of iridescence in there, Josh. For sure. But I think Jason's done a great job.
If you wanted to do something to this, I think the only thing I would do, if you absolutely had to add something to it, I would try getting like some of the Turbo Dork stuff. I would get like the Turbo Dork, like the pearlescent white.
Okay.
I don't know. Is this supposed to be a silver dragon or a white dragon?
Well, I think Jason mentioned silver in the post, but
If it's a silver dragon, then you're done. Leave it alone. But if it was a white dragon, I mean, I guess you could do the silver dragon too. But I would get one of the pearlescent colors.
Yeah.
Like if it's white, I would get like the pearlescent white or mother of pearl, I think it's called.
Okay.
And I would very carefully dry brush away from the head, just down his back, and it would give you that nice little pearlescent sheen when you move it.
Right.
Like that sort of that snakeskin looking kind of vibe, that iridescence. And if it's silver, if you wanted to keep it kind of with like the blue cool tones.
Jason just said
silver,
silver.
So if it's silver, you could do like one of the blue tones and do the same thing. You could very carefully dry brush, or I would probably do them ventrally with the blue tone. I would do all those underneath, and you get that same kind of shimmery blue, kind of like iridescence. But otherwise, it doesn't need anything. It looks great.
Yep. Very cool there. Thanks
But if he's hunting for like, what else should I do? Like that's the only thing I can think of.
Stop is also a good thing to do sometimes. Looking good. Cool. Next up, we've got Jeff Smith. He's painting some more Dark Angels. So he's got a Infernus Marine Sergeant. So this guy is super cool. I'm going to hold up mine, even though...
Remember, you're going to be a teeny tiny thumbnail.
I know, teeny tiny.
Yep, everybody can see that you are holding a model.
Excellent, but it's the same model. It's different, different scheme, of course, but I think it's cool. I love that sort of drawing the combat knife instead of firing the huge pyroblaster.
Yeah, I mean, while I don't like Dark Angels, Jeff has done a great job.
He's great. He's got the classic sort of red casings on the weapons as well. I'm loving it about this particular set of models that he's painting. But yeah, looking really good, Jeff. What am I saying? Sorry. Dragons. Next up, we've got Josh Potter. He's painted a black dragon here.
It's one of the old Ral Partha ones. Yeah, this model's great. This model took me back.
Yeah. Back to when you were a young child.
I'm pretty sure that I don't think I owned this dragon, but it was definitely in our collection. I think one of our friends owned it.
Right.
Yeah, he's great.
It is really. Does it have like? Is it tusks? What's going on at the front there?
It has these two big like fangs that come out like a saber-tooth tiger, like they're almost like tusks.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, but it's looking great.
It's a cool model though.
I love that the little bit of the sort of the blue sheen on the inside of the wings there.
Yep. It's a great model. He's like this big.
Right. Oh, really? Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, much smaller than I thought. Yeah, looking great there, Josh. Nice work. Next up from Josh, we have another mini. Is a very cool knight, and Josh has gone for the that classic blue-orange complementary scheme. There, so it's like a chestnut horse with that bright blue, almost teal, turquoise kind of color on the shield, the pennant, and the tack of the horse.
That knight is going to get himself killed. He is tilting on the wrong side of his horse.
Yep, it's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, he's going to either get like his back broken or his shoulders dislocated,
or both.
Probably both.
Yeah. But yes, good night, Jeff. It is a good night, isn't it?
I like that guy though. He's good.
Looking cool. Nice work, Josh. Next up, we have Mick Palazzi, painted up a Apothecary by Elodris. So from the Leviathan set.
Nice.
Great Apothecary in Gravis armor. Very nice. Painted this up for his Blood Angels.
Yeah, he's pretty rad. So yeah, he did the same thing I did. See how he has the pegs in the base, but he's not glued in.
Right. Yep.
He just like kind of pegged him in, but he didn't push them all the way in and glue it.
Yep.
No, he's really good. I'm actually going to steal the head off of this guy.
Right. Okay.
And probably his bolt pistol, because I have to make 2 sanguinary priests in jump packs.
Oh, okay. Radio. That would be good. Are you also going to do so in jump packs? So you're probably not going to have the Medicaid, the Narthecium stuff coming over the back.
No, I might cut part of the backpack off and use the saw blade to basically give him a half-ass Narthecium.
Right.
So I just I'll put like a data plate and then the saw blade.
Right.
And he has a Narthecium on him. So
okay, cool. That'll be neat. Excellent. Looking good there, Mick. Next up, we've got from Nathan Sorensen. It's another scenic shot, I guess. Again, Nathan posted some stuff a few weeks ago, but it's some Battlefleet Gothic ships sort of floating through an asteroid field.
I love it.
Yep. It does look super cool, doesn't it?
Those look like Blood Ravens?
I'm not sure. Not sure. I can't quite tell.
I can see the wings.
Yeah.
I just can't tell if it's...
It could be. Could be that. But it's from the War of the False Primarch. So
Okay.
I think is the setting that they're working on. But again, I think if you check out War of the False Primarch, so all one word, .blogspot.com. But yeah, check out the post in the Facebook group, and you'll be able to follow on and find out a bit more information about it. But a very
Jeff
cool.
Smith and his buddy were talking about BFG on their podcast on Saturday, and it's just a matter of time till that game gets released. Like they were talking about it before COVID, and I know that COVID screwed up their whole timeline and everything, but
Yep.
I bet we'll probably get that in like a year or two.
You think? Yeah, it could be interesting. We'll see.
I love Battlefleet Gothic.
Yep. Almost as much as you love Malifaux. Because now we
Way
have
more than I love. Way more than I love.
we have a wonderful model from Scott Radham.
Is it green?
It is green. It is Malifaux, and it is like a Frankenstein's baby.
Yeah, those are. I mean, he looks great. He looks like weird. He looks like weird genetically modified Hulk is what he looks like.
Right. There's a little bit of Toxic Avenger kind of feeling
Sure,
there.
yeah, some Toxic Avenger in the Hulk.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking super cool there, Scott.
He looks good.
Yeah.
I like him. I can almost hear the sad Hulk music as he's leaving town.
Absolutely. No, I think he looks awesome. I love the.
He's great.
Sort of
The model, he's got so much. I will say the Malifaux models are great. They have so much character. Like I like that he has like the straps kind of like holding him in, and you see like
Yep.
the bit of his like flub like hanging out the side, and he's got like the little like infection on his foot and stuff, and his stitches look all infected. Like that's great painting by Scott to do that.
Yep.
But there's just so much detail in their models. Like they look great.
So much character, yeah. Definitely cool. Awesome work there, Scott. Looks great. Next up,
I'm just gonna call him. That's just Gross Hulk.
Gross Hulk. Awesome. Next up, we have a piece from Sean Gleason. Sean has been painting up some terrain for his Eldar, I think. Yes, these are Eldar. We want to. Well, no, Sean loves his elves.
Webway Gate.
So is that what it's called? The Webway Gate.
Webway Gate.
Webway Portal, something like that. Webway Gate. But yeah, looking cool there. I like the way that it's sort of separated the Wraithbone element down the bottom with the sort of more sort of energy.
Yeah, the decorative parts.
Ethereal
I like it.
energy and decorative parts at the front there. But yeah, nice stuff there, Sean. Very cool. And then we've got some older pieces from Stephen Ryder, who is obviously going through a very old school kick. Recently, we've seen a lot of his the squats from Epic. But first up, we have a I think this is called a large demon or a great demon.
Oh, the weird like cuddly monkey looking guy.
Yeah, from Grenadier from the early '80s. Looks really good. Does like a weird sort of bat-faced monkey guy.
The thing that cracks me up about this is like this is supposed to be a greater demon.
Right.
And the way that he's standing, he looks like a sad little guy who needs a hug. He's like oh, his hands are all pulled in, and he's like kind of insecure. Well, like his eyebrows are raised. Like he looks like he's looking for a hug.
He probably is, and he's going to lure you in. You're going to go, "Oh, you're okay," and you're going to give him a hug, and then those claws spring out, and he's just like, "Ha ha!"
We'll see.
That's what I think. That's what I'm seeing. It's a story. That's my story. Next,
I do like that model, though.
Yeah, it is cool. It's cool. Super old school. So that's 40 years old, 40-some.
Something like that. I mean, if it's a Grenadier kit, it's got to be from like the late 80s, early 90s.
I think it was the early 80s, actually, that one.
Okay.
Crazy. I think this is another Grenadier model, this the Satyr. Playing the pan flute. But yeah.
Yep.
That's all there as well. See, there we go. Jez says, demons need love too.
I love Steve. I love Steve's like brush background.
I know, it is super funny, isn't it? I think it's probably one that he uses to clean his models. Wash, rinse.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely fun there.
We got anything else, or is that it?
One more, and I think this is a Raoul Partha, old Raoul Partha model, but a cool Jinn in that classic Aladdin blue.
Yeah.
Blue skin there.
Is this the guy with the scimitar?
Yeah. The so.
Oh yeah, he's the Jinn. So I didn't have this one. I had the other Raoul Partha, the one that has his scimitar over his head. Okay. It's the same. It's the same guy.
Yeah. But no, it looks super cool there, I think.
Great. That is old school.
Awesome job there, Steve. Keep him coming.
Yeah, he was great.
Okay, so there we go. All of the photos you've just seen are from our Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group. You can go and check it out in the notes below. There's a link to our Facebook page, which is Build, Paint, Play, and then the group, which is Build, Paint, Play Community. So hit up both of those. Join one, like the other. Subscribe to this page, like this video, comment on it, all that sort of stuff. Do all the fun things.
Hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff.
Bell for notifications, so you'll be notified when I put up the notice. I forgot it yesterday. Remembered it this afternoon. Got it going, but it's all good.
Well, listen, guys, we will post what we're going to do next week during the week, either end of this week or beginning of next, so you guys know what next episode is.
Well, we know.
Oh, we're having the guys on.
It's the first episode of Tale of Four Warlords.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so you'll get to meet Jeff and John in virtual person, and we will talk about what we're doing. I think the plan is next week to talk about maybe the first 500 points of what we're going to do, get focused on, and sort of make some promises for showing up the month later with stuff done. I've been making a list and separating it into different groups. So I have a group which is like Dreadnoughts. So I can do Dreadnoughts one month, or Speedy. Speedy is the name of this group.
Wow, okay.
So it's got bikes and ATV, storm speeders, chaplain on bike, and drop pods is in that group. But tanks is the biggest group. It's 6 points wise. So
okay.
Six vehicles in there. But yes, it should be fun. Should be good.
Absolutely. Well, listen, everybody, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure talking to everybody. We appreciate you folks hanging out and spending your Tuesday nights with Dave and I. If anybody has any photos, as always, make sure you share them in the group. We'll try to talk about them at the end of the next episode. Tell all your friends, share this around. Again, like we said, we would love to hit 350 subscribers by the end of the week. I would love to be at 500 by the end of the year. It also makes it easier for Dave and I to do more events and come out to stuff and do more shows and do some live stuff, and then potentially have the equipment to do a show live from one of the events we're at, like Adepticon or something. So that'd be kind of cool. If you guys have any questions, hit us up on the page. But otherwise, we will see you next week. And as always, do not forget to... Oh, hang on. Dave's got something.
I was going to say, don't forget...
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Don't forget to head over and say thank you to our wonderful sponsor, the Army Painter. We are very happy to have them on board.
Yep. Yeah, they've been great. Adam's awesome, and Kat's their new... I forget what Kat's actual title is. She's like their event coordinator.
Event and community manager. Yep.
So we will probably have either Adam and or Kat on at some point in the next,
Yep.
I would say 4 or 5 shows probably.
Maybe for the Christmas show.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, like a big shout out to Army Painter. We thank you guys for your support. We really appreciate it. And
Definitely.
maybe we'll make sure that Jeff and we'll tell Jeff and John that they have to use Army Painter paint
Only
for the
exclusively.
challenge.
That'd be good. Cool.
Thank you guys so much. As always, do not forget to
Build,
paint,
play. So close. I was so close. I jumped the gun.
Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.